What to choose, Studio Flash or Continuous Light? This question is asked not only by beginners, which is natural, but also by photographers who have been shooting for a long time. This is because LED-based continuous lights have made great progress and become much better. But both Studio Flashes and continuous lights have their own advantages and serious disadvantages. Throughout my 15-year career, I've accumulated a big collection of light sources, and I've tested even more, so hopefully by the end of this video you'll have a clear understanding of what to look for when choosing lighting and which type of light is best suited for different tasks. Let's start with the fundamental difference in the operation of Studio Flashes and LED lights, because if you're a beginner, it's not always clear which is a flash and which is a continuous light. They look very similar. With continuous light, it's quite simple. We have a light-emitting element and LED matrix. We turn on the device, it lights up, we change the power and the brightness changes. As the name suggests, it shines constantly with the power that you set. With flashes it's a bit more complicated. There are two light sources here. One lamp works in the same way as in a continuous light. In modern devices there is the same LED square or circle that I showed on the continuous light source. In old flashes there were halogens. This is called a modeling light. Everything is the same, it shines constantly. But its task is not to be a light source for your photo, but simply to help you during shooting to evaluate how the light will fall. Because the flash itself is this horseshoe-shaped lamp that only lights up for a fraction of a second when you press the button on your camera. At the same time, the modeling light turns off for this moment, so it does not affect your photo, only flash lamp does. How does the flash know when to fire? A trigger is used for this. The transmitter is installed on the camera, the receiver is already built into most modern flashes. If not, then it's purchased separately. You press the button on the camera, the signal is transmitted to the flash, it fires. And here's the first, although in my opinion very small plus of continuous lights. If you're a beginner, it is much easier to use. If you're already an experienced photographer, then you are maybe thinking now, well, what's so hard to understand? But beginners can sometimes be really stumped. How to set up channels, and does this thing fit my camera, and in general how does the shutter speed not affect the exposure, and what about exposure triangle, a lot of questions. So yes, there is a small plus here, continuous light is simpler to work with. The next plus is already much more serious. What you see with your eyes is what you get in the photo. Yes, flashes have a modeling light, but it only allows you to roughly estimate what you will get. What we see through live view and what will be in the photo will be different. The modeling light has a different color temperature, a different lamp shape, a different placement inside the device. Because of this, the light-shadow pattern will be slightly different, and in some situations the picture can differ quite significantly. This is a big plus of continuous lights. For illustration, we placed the flash through a stencil. First, took a shot with a modeling light adjusting the exposure settings. Shutter speed is 8 seconds. And then took a shot with a flashlight using classic settings. And you can see a very serious difference in the light pattern, which is only due to the different placement and shape of the lamps. Next plus of LEDs. There is no color temperature or brightness fluctuation. This is not a major problem with expensive flashes, but even their documentation mentions that it can happen. It's more pronounced with cheap flashes. But with continuous light, this doesn't happen at all. The exposure and color is always perfectly the same. And the next plus is even bigger. It's the ability to shoot videos. Nowadays, most photographers, or so it seems to me, I don't have any statistics, let's say many, do not only take pictures, but also shoot videos. And constant lights give you the opportunity to do both. Can you shoot something with the modeling light of a flash? Well, if the modeling lamp is powerful and you shoot something small, raising the ISO and opening the aperture, it is possible. But this is not the best solution. Yes, you can practice video, but using it regularly for commercial work is not a good idea. And continuous lights are available in a wide variety of options. Panels, small lights, flexible panels, round lights, these sticks, I don't know how to call them correctly, light sorts. The most important thing for me is the ability to modify the light, so I'm primarily interested in light sources with a bayonet, so that I can put on any light shaping modifiers. But sometimes these small LED lights or swords may be very convenient. Another minor advantage is that many continuous lights have color temperature adjustment, and some can even emit light in any color, such as the Godox SZ series. This can be achieved with color gels, but in practice it is much more convenient to turn one knob than to select and attach gels. So a small but nice addition. So it would seem like a no-brainer to go with continuous light. But it's not that simple. Let's compare the Godox Now LED 1200 to the budget-friendly Godox SK400. The Now LED is a powerful and impressive light source, but it comes with a hefty price tag, as you can see on the screen. The SK400, on the other hand, is a modern and affordable flash. It has a built-in radio trigger receiver, a modeling LED light, and a solid construction. It's a very good flash. I took a photo of a color passport with a flash at full power. The camera settings are currently displayed on the screen. Now let's do the same thing with continuous light. And all conditions are the same distance, no modifiers. First, we'll use the same camera settings at full power. As you can see, the photo is significantly underexposed. To achieve the same exposure as with the flash, I had to change the shutter speed to 25th of a second. So on average, the flash delivers much brighter illumination compared to continuous light. Freezing motion. Flash units offer a serious advantage in this area. Even inexpensive models have a relatively short flash duration, and if you don't set it to full power, it will be even shorter. This allows you to freeze any movement that isn't too fast. This means you can shoot a model handheld as long as they're not moving around too much but posing calmly, turning their head, slightly moving, etc., without worrying too much about blur in the photo. With continuous light, it's more challenging. There isn't enough brightness, so you have to find a balance between aperture, ISO and shutter speed. And it's not always possible to strike the right balance. You need to constantly check for blur in the photo. And if you need to freeze faster motion like splashes, it's very difficult with continuous lights at all. It's possible in very rare situations, but again, it's more for fun than for commercial production photography. Only flash units can handle this. However, not just any flash unit will do. You need one with a short flash duration. But in any case, flash units have the advantage here. To capture a stream of water, we had to switch to a slightly more advanced flash unit. We used the Godox QT400. The flash was set to 1/32 of power. We also captured the same scene using continuous light. For this, we used the same Godox Now LED 1200 light source. It was operating at full power. With the flash, we were able to shoot without any issues at ISO 100. However, when using the continuous light source, even with such a powerful unit, we had to raise the ISO all the way to 1000. Color rendition quality. Honestly, I think this is no longer a significant advantage nowadays. LED lights have excellent color rendition as well, but flash units still have a slight edge, so a small point for a flash. Without flash units, you lose the ability to work with mixed lighting. Yes, this may not be an everyday task, but sometimes it is necessary. It can be for creative purposes or for purely practical reasons. For example, in product photography, there are often devices with bulbs, screens, etc. With flash units, this can be done in one shot, using mixed lighting technique. But with continuous lights, this may not always be possible. Usually, you will need to take a separate shot of screen, bulb, or whatever you are shooting. Another disadvantage of continuous lights compared to flash units is that the room must be very well isolated from any ambient light. I'm generally in favor of rooms without extra light and with flash units too, but you need to be especially careful here. Even a large monitor on which you display photos can have a significant impact on the exposure. Next plus of flash units is the modeling light. More precisely, the fact that it's much less bright than a continuous light set to full power. This is because many people's eyes get tired from working with constant bright light. The flash is brighter, but it only fires for a fraction of a second, while the continuous light shines into the model's eyes, well, constantly. And not just the model, I myself sometimes get tired from the bright light. I have to give my eyes a rest. This is probably individual, some people tolerate it better, some worse, but there is such a moment. I've already mentioned power. But let's consider this issue from a different angle. At comparable brightness levels, a continuous light will be significantly larger and heavier than a flash unit. For instance, this Godox AD200 Pro, a fantastic flash by the way, which can almost fit in your pocket, almost, if it's big enough, will provide approximately the same amount of light as a big and heavy Godox Now LED 1200. And if you need to shoot in a location without a power outlet, you'll also need to transport bulky batteries for the continuous light source. The question of whether continuous lights or flash units are superior is meaningless if considered without context for the intended use of the lighting. The choice depends on the specific application. For instance, what is better, a sport car or an SUV? A sport car may be more suitable for highway driving, but an SUV would be more practical for fishing and camping trips with friends. Cameras and lighting are tools designed to accomplish specific tasks. The first step is to determine what you will shoot more often, and then select the appropriate light sources based on that. If you primarily shoot videos, continuous lights should be your priority. If you need to freeze motion, flash is a more rational choice. If I had to start from scratch and purchase lighting equipment right now, I would prefer continuous lights. Video is a big part of my work, and while the illumination from continuous lights is not as strong as that from flash units, it is already quite decent. We are in a product photography business and primarily shoot small objects, often using a tripod, so the brightness is sufficient for our needs. But in practice, we utilize both continuous lights and flash units. Unfortunately, there aren't any truly good two-in-one solutions that combine the capabilities of a flash unit and a continuous light. While there have been attempts, they are still far from ideal. So, if you handle a big variety of assignments, you'll likely need both types of lighting. This is the case for me and many of my colleagues. Please subscribe and see you next time. Bye!